Welcome to the Lifestream at First Unitarian Wilmington podcast. Here we will share some sermons, talks, interviews, or conversations we call life journeys, and also occasionally music. I'm Reverend Larry Piers, minister at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. If you enjoy what we are offering, please share it with a friend. Our purpose is to spark conversations and to share what we value as a Unitarian Universalist congregation with a wider community. To find out more about us, please visit our website, firstuuwilm.org. And now, welcome to this episode of Lifestream at First Unitarian. I didn't always know that death could be a teacher. I love learning, but it wasn't on my schedule. I hadn't signed up for this. But then, when I was 16, and then again when I was 39, death was added to the curriculum of my life unexpectedly. First my mother, then my spouse. I didn't enroll in either course willingly. It was then that I was stopped in my familiar tracks. Everything that went before and everything that soon followed were under intense review. These shifts happen. Those who know. A death of someone you love transforms your consciousness for a while. Even in the midst of sorrow, everything that seems so important gets rearranged in an instant. Everything that taken for granted gets reordered. It is as if death invites us into life in a new way, if we care to respond to the invitation. Who knew that death can sometimes reintroduce us to life? It was these two relatively early lessons from death that have shaped me from the inside out, so that there is a knowing that lingers. Those who know. I vowed in each incident to never take anything for granted again, to never leave behind that unique consciousness during times of grief that arises and slows everything down. Those that know. Yet what often masquerades as life intervenes. The familiar takes over and assumes its position. And soon, before you've even realized it, the busyness takes over. The expectations accelerate within and around you. Whatever glimpses of mystery that had become so pervasive when death's lessons were so clear, gradually evaporate into the background. And at the same time, linger. While sitting these days with someone who is dying, while accompanying someone who is grieving, it is that inner cavern of knowing that we go to. It is there where we meet, and a silent recognition occurs that needs no words, that has no words. Yet there is a whisper within that cannot be silenced. Those who know. Death is a teacher. O death, your lessons are not always retained. Thank God, death, you grade on a curve. I wrote these words following my reading of Frank Ostaseski's book, The 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully. It seems that Ostaseski, took a crash course in accompanying those who are dying. He spent much of his life as a pioneering teacher in the movement to improve end-of-life care. He's a Buddhist teacher, and in 1987, he founded the Zen Hospice Project in California, where he spent 17 years working with people who were facing their dying, many of whom were homeless. Some dying of AIDS, some alone, with no one else to accompany them. In 2004, he moved to the Metta Institute, where he continues to train clinicians and caregivers in the art of mindful and compassionate care of the dying. Frank Ostaseski has sat with more than 1,000 dying people, learning from them. I think it's fair to say that we'd rather not approach this topic this morning. Isn't there just a little bit of resistance that you might have? Just say yes softly. Yet I agree with the philosopher who said, what we cannot speak about, we pass over in silence. What we cannot speak about, we pass over in silence. I'm convinced by the words from the author Francis Weller, who Helen just read from, who asserts, we were not meant to live shallow lives, pocked by meaningless routines and the secondary satisfactions of happy hour. We are designed to encounter this life with amazement and wonder, not resignation and endurance. When we fully honor our many losses, our lives become more fully able to embody the wild joy that aches to leap from our hearts into a shimmering world. We want to somehow, sometimes, avoid the topic until we can no longer. We want to somehow separate death from life. And when we do so, we miss capturing the wisdom that death has to offer the living, has to offer us. For Ostaseski's main rationale for why we are talking about this today. He writes, death is not waiting for us at the end of a long road. Death is always with us in the marrow of every passing moment. She's the secret teacher hiding in plain sight, helping us to discover what matters most. Life and death are a package deal. They cannot be pulled apart. And we cannot truly live unless we are aware of death. Now, I suspect that even though I just shared the rationale, that there's still a whining voice within some of us that sounds something like, do we have to? No, we don't. Yet I want to offer the lessons that Ostaseski learned from the dying and from death in this book, The 5 Invitations. He emphasizes that when we maintain an ever-present consciousness of death, it can bring us closer to our truest selves. We're always in relationship with our death and the death of others, whether we want to realize it or not. So, during my reflections today, I want us to consider what would it be like for us to sit down and have a cup of tea with death, as if death were our teacher. We don't have to wait until our dying days to ask what death has to teach us. We can have that conversation now. And the best we can have that conversation in this moment. After being with more than 1,000 people who were dying, Ostaseski felt he could offer some of these lessons of dying to others. For him, these lessons were distilled after many encounters with the dying, and under pressure, he had to get to the point, to the essential lessons. You see, he was preparing to speak at a conference where there were many speakers lined up in the lineup, and by the time he was to give his presentation, the organizers told him, "We're sorry, but we're overscheduled and we're running out of time. Could you give your presentation in about 5 minutes?" He immediately pulled out a cocktail napkin and he wrote down what he felt were the primary lessons that death could teach us. These 5 lessons became what he called the 5 invitations in his book by that title. An invitation is a request to participate in attending an event. Indeed, there are invitations to attend the event that is our life, and these invitations are encouragements to be fully present to our lives, to live our lives fully. So even though the lessons are from death, the application is to our living, our everyday living. The point is not to do a crash course on what dying can teach us when we are in those last days of our life, when so much else is often going on. The point is to accept these invitations, to learn these lessons now while we can still live them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let me summarize the 5 invitations, and then I'll focus on each one. The 5 invitations are: don't wait, welcome everything, push away nothing, bring your whole self to the experience, find a place of rest in the middle of things, cultivate, don't know, mind. Now, I will speak about each one of these invitations and offer some practice or some reflection questions for each one. The first invitation is, don't wait. You might even touch your heart and say those words after me. Don't wait. So it gets infused. Don't wait. Often we postpone what we'd rather not face. Often we can skate on the surface of life, imagining we have forever to get on with it, to go deeper, and to fully engage. Death teaches us to not waste our time on the surface, to stop wasting our time on meaningless activities. Death reminds us it's either now or never. Sometimes this may mean doing the work of forgiveness, which Ostaseski says is like setting down a hot coal we've been carrying in our hand. In our awareness of dying, we can decide to live each moment, to be as deeply engaged as we can be. We can focus on the present and be grateful for what we have now. As we listen to this lesson of death, we might ask ourselves, what am I willing to say or to do or to be in my life? What am I willing to say or to do or to be in my life? And then just pick one of those and do it now. The second invitation is to welcome everything and push away nothing. Repeat that after me. Welcome everything and push away nothing. Death frees us from our cherished opinions and helps us to recognize that in the end, these do not matter, particularly if they inhibit our capacities to discover, to be receptive, and to skillfully respond to everything or anything we encounter. As people come closer to death, Ostaseski discovered that for many people, only two questions really matter. Am I loved? Did I love well? A woman was once invited to have dinner at the home of a very prominent psychiatrist, we'll call him Sidney, who was a man of profound intelligence and insight and grace. However, in the few years prior to the dinner, his Alzheimer's disease had taken a toll in his short-term memory and his ability to recognize faces. So when the woman arrived at Sidney's home, she rang the doorbell. Sidney opened the door. At first, he had a look of confusion. Then he said to the woman, "I'm sorry. I have trouble recognizing faces these days. But I do know that our home has always been a place where guests are welcome. If you're here on my doorstep, then it is my job to welcome you." In welcoming everything, it doesn't mean we have to like everything that arises. Openness is the basis for a skillful response to life. How do we welcome what's happening now in our lives without postponing it anymore? Are you ready for the third lesson? Enough. Okay, the third one. To bring our whole self to the experience. Repeat it after me. Bring your whole self to the experience. Death reminds us that we are more than the role that we have. We are not defined by how well we comply to others' expectations of us. To be whole, we need to include, accept, and connect all the parts of ourselves, our fear, our anger, our grief, our helplessness. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means no part of us is left out. I love it when our worship associate, Ed Scott, often invites us to bring our whole selves to worship. Maybe there can be at least one period in the week where we do welcome all of who we are with the heart of compassion. What is it that wants to flow from your life now? I'm going to move to the fourth invitation, and it is to find a place to rest in the middle of things. So you can repeat that after me. Find a place of rest in the middle of things. We don't need to we don't need to wait until we die to find rest. That one was just for me. I think others might relate to it as well. We often think that rest is something that will come to us when everything else in our life is complete at the end of the day, when we go on vacation, when our to-do list is finished. We imagine that we can only find rest by changing the circumstances. The place of rest is always available to us. It's a choice to be alert, to bring your attention to this moment. As Ostaseski reminds us, nearly all the plants go dormant in winter, and certain mammals hibernate. We need to do this because he writes, there are two things we can never do in the fast lane, as I said earlier. We can neither deepen our experience nor integrate it, and we need to deepen our experience and integrate it if we are to live fully. How might you create an opportunity to rest in the middle of life? The fifth invitation, it's the last one. Phew. Cultivate don't know mind. Cultivate, don't know my. Death puts things in perspective for us. It makes us realize that we don't have to have it all figured out or pretend that we do. We can appreciate mystery. We can practice ways of knowing that are unfamiliar to us or unpracticed in us. We can practice intuitive knowing, emotional knowing, relational knowing, contemplative knowing, silent knowing. Don't know mine is an invitation to enter life with fresh eyes, to empty our minds, and to open our hearts. How might we surrender to not knowing? How many of us feel uncomfortable when we don't know? I didn't ask for a show of hands. How might we find ways to enter a silence that speaks within us in ways all the knowing words cannot? So these 5 invitations: don't wait, welcome everything, push away nothing, bring your whole self to the experience, find a place of rest in the middle of things, cultivate, don't know mind, are not just insights, they are practices to embody. They are ways to embody living fully in the here and now, right now. So in conclusion, I offer these words from David White in his short poem, Enough, Enough. These few words are enough, he writes. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this sitting here. This opening to the life we have refused again and again until now. Until now. So may it be.